Are student loans immoral? One NYU professor thinks it's time for college grads to stop repaying their student loan debt. What is going on here? I'm Allen Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me on set to discuss, Terry Jones, Associate Editor of Investors Business Daily, and Rituparna Basu, Writer and Research Associate with the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights. So, Andrew Ross, a professor at NYU, recently wrote in the Daily Beast that college graduates should not repay their student loans because the loans themselves are immoral. Very interesting essay here, Terry. I mean, it was a lot of self-examination here from himself, sort of saying his money, the money of the university is now based on these students taking on sometimes gigantic loans that they don't have to pay a dime on them until they're finished. And they're very young people, obviously. So they don't really know what this means to step into the world with over $100,000 in debt. So there's an interesting premise there that I think is legit, but what do you think of his answer to it, which is that, well, we're bailing out banks, so why not just go belly up on these loans?
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I mean, you have no system of lending possible because everybody will stop lending. And no, it's kind of foolish. I appreciate the notion that he feels guilty for stiffing students in terms of the quality of their education. And a lot of students choose an easy course of study that basically limits their employment possibilities after they're through, and they don't realize maybe how much debt they're accumulating, although they should be sitting down with their parents and thinking about this before they accept a school. But the one important thing on this is that not every student at every school has $100,000 in debt. The average, I think, is $25,000. So, you have to look at, very carefully at what the costs versus the benefits are. And the benefits are, if you're a high school student and you graduate with a diploma, you make about $29,000 a year. If you're a college student, you make, in real dollars, $51,000 a year. That's a pretty big difference. So it might just be worth it for you, even with the loan.
Rita, it just seems like there's so much variability here in terms of who we're talking about. What university are you talking about? What are you majoring in at that university? Are you at Harvard and majoring in physics and engineering, or MIT? You're going to get a pretty good paying job out of that. Are you somewhere else and majoring in folklore and mythology? I don't know where your viability is there, other than for the academic market itself, which is having a tough time. So isn't there like larger something to dive into here? Yeah, I'm sure some of these people are taking on debts that they shouldn't take, but isn't that on them? And shouldn't we be encouraging a greater sense of responsibility at an earlier age, in conjunction with the parents, about what you're spending your money on?
Sure, and I don't know if there's that much evidence that that's not happening today. I mean, this essay, this guy's the Occupy Wall Street guy, and the whole flavor of the essay is, well, look, we've got these predatory lenders out there, and they're taking advantage of these poor, these kids. They don't know what they're getting into. Yes,
because there are greater restrictions on the student loans. They can't get out of them through bankruptcy, et cetera, et cetera.
And that was not my experience. I mean, I went to college just a couple of years ago. I went to a big institution, Pennsylvania State University, go Lions. And this was not how it was. I didn't feel like anyone had a gun to my head saying you have to take this loan. And this article even insinuates the people in the college admissions and the financial aid offices are in cahoots with these lenders to get you to take these loans. I mean, it was the absolute opposite. I mean, they wanted you to know for sure, are you okay with this? Do you understand what this means? You couldn't get the loan. You couldn't even do anything unless you took this kind of exam saying, okay, do you know what this means? Is this a free gift? Is that what you think? If you check that off, that means you failed. You have to take the exam again. I mean, there was a whole push to get people to be informed. So we really have to think, I don't know who he's talking about. Maybe there's some particular cases of some corrupt people, but it goes along with the whole Occupy mentality, right? That you're assuming that the market is to blame, that these people are greedy and they're trying to take advantage, where you think, okay, this is the student loan market. Now, the financial industry is the most regulated industry in the United States of America. It's not a surprise that a couple of years ago, that's where we had a meltdown in the financial sector, and the student loan market is part of that. So this is not a free market that's working here, yet they're so quick to blame the market, blame profit incentives.
Aren't we, Terry, sort of in a similar, we had a real estate bubble largely fueled by government sort of edicts and agendas to increase home ownership, and all of the sort of sick behavior that emerges from that on all sides. Don't we have a similar sort of inflationary bubble happening with student education, where you have a ton of money available to fund these education. Guess what? Wherever you have this government intervention, you have a necessary inflationary impact on the price.
That's exactly correct. I mean, whenever government gets involved in something in a big way, the price of something always goes up and the quality goes down. And that is not an opinion, that is a rule. And it's happened big time in education. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, about a quarter of all students went on to college. They were mostly highly motivated people who had good grades and high test scores. Now we've told people, well, your ticket to the upper middle class is to go to college and get a degree. And even if that degree is in something worthless that nobody wants and nobody needs as a skill.
The prestige of the degree itself will carry you forward,
that's correct.
Versus getting a vocational skill or an engineering skill or something like that, which is highly saleable in the labor market.
As much as I love dance majors, and I knew a number of them when I was in college, none of them got a job in dance. None of them.
Yeah, or they're choosing an artistic life, and choosing an artistic life means certain things in terms of money and how you're going to handle that. But he also brings up the issue that, like, if we were really an evolved society like other countries around the world, we just simply provide college education for free. And he says that to do this, 70 billion, which is like a rounding error for the Pentagon, he says. The Pentagon sort of says, well, 70 billion, we really don't know where it goes in our budget. It's kind of wasteful. So he says, and that's a compelling point when you say, hey, look, there's a government agency throwing away 70 billion, it doesn't even know where it goes, when you could literally give the education to people and be that much more a healthy society. You get educated people, they don't come out with debt, they are that much more effective in terms of their initial economic existence. What do you think of that?
Well, we have a public education system in America today. How well is that working? Do you really want more government to be paying for people's education, which means they get to determine a lot about what kind of education it is, where they go to school. All these things happen if you're paying as the government. You get to make those decisions. Now, the public education system in America, I think everyone would agree, is broken. It's producing students who are not equipped to deal with a global economy. I don't think we want more of that.
Terry, your thoughts on the idea that we just simply give this away?
Yeah, it's a real bad idea, and I'll tell you why. If you ask anybody in higher education, they will all agree that universities in the U.S. are the best in the world. And if you look at all the rankings, they're the best in the world. They win the most Nobel Prizes, all that stuff. And one of the main reasons for that is that individual universities can innovate, they can specialize, they can focus on certain things. You can't do that at a European university or elsewhere. They often have government mandates and things that drive what they do. So you put government in charge of all of our secondary and advanced education, and I'm afraid you'll get the same results that you get whenever government controls anything, and that is higher prices and less quality.
All right, guys, good discussion. That's all the time we have. For Ritu and Terry, I'm Allen Barton, and you've been watching Front Page.